How's it going, everyone? It is Nick from Comic Culture here. It's time for Nick at Night, my weekly non-spoiler comic book review show. I'm going to go over all the books I read this week and tell you what I thought about them. Coming up next, stay tuned. All right, welcome back. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's throw the grading bar up. I'm going to go through each and every book, and as I introduce the book, I'll put the cover on the grading bar so you see how they stack up against each other. So let's get into DC first, because we only have one DC book this week. It's World's Finest, issue number 6 from Mark Waid. We have a different art team on here compared to issues 1 through 5. We actually have Travis Moore on here. Bonvillain's still in the colors, and Aditya Bidikar is still on the letters. But we had a little bit of an art change for this one, and I believe there's another art change going into Batman versus Robin, which I believe is a continuation of this story here. So where we pick up in issue number 6, essentially in issues 1 through 5, we had this big bad villain that was coming into this time period. He was kind of locked away. He escaped. All of our heroes teamed up, took care of him, locked him away, but our Robin here got lost in time. And so basically this is the issue where our heroes go and find him. There's a creative way that they use to find him. Maybe he drops some clues for them to pick up on, and then they can kind of go back in time using their superhero powers to go back in time and find out where Robin is. But he's kind of wrapped up right now inside of a carny scene. Who would have thought? He's going back to being one of the Flying Graysons, which I thought was pretty cool. And there's like a little murder mystery going on in here. So some people were running away from the law, and they joined this carny group. And there's this really interesting kind of murder mystery whodunit thing going on in here. So the team kind of gangs up together and takes on this little murder mystery, and it's pretty charming. It's pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy. It's definitely a departure from the look and feel of the current state DC characters, especially Batman. And man, so it's just it kind of takes you back a little bit. It's more innocent times in this book. Coloring and everything is pretty cool. I do like, the art style is okay. I don't really like, Batman like smiling all the time. Clark looks a little bit weird, I would say, in this book. Everyone looks just pretty soft. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. But, it's kind of like a little filler issue to jump between this story and the Batman versus Robin that's going to be coming up soon. So it's not awesome. It's not great. I love issue 1 through 5. 6 is pretty much a skip. It's like a standalone little thing. And we'll see where the story goes from here, though. All right, and that was it for DC. Like I said, we're going to jump over into Marvel next because we have just a couple books from Marvel. We're going to start with Daredevil issue number 2. This is Legacy 650 from Zdarsky and Kaketto. So I do like this book a lot. I liked Devil's Reign. I like the Daredevil run. I liked everything in Devil's Reign. I like what's happening in Punisher right now, and I'm really excited for them to explore that and to cross over. And I thought we were going to head in that direction, but in the issue number 1, towards the end, we were introduced to an old friend of Matt Murdock's and Elektra. I think it was, what is his name? Goldie, I believe it is, Robert Goldman. And so he's kind of being portrayed as almost like a godlike character right now. He's got this aura about him. He's got this like butterfly effect power set, which is really interesting. He can kind of set things in motion, and then he can kind of see how it would go forward and how it can turn one little thing into something great later down the road, even though it may have caused tragedy up front. And so it's pretty interesting to see how all those butterfly effects accumulate and what the impact is to Daredevil personally and physically in this issue. And it's pretty awesome to see. This guy has like an insane amount of confidence, and it's almost like a self-righteousness that he's riding on right now. And it's pretty fun to see that interaction with Daredevil, given Daredevil's past and Matt Murdock's past with his faith and everything. So it's a pretty cool dynamic between those two characters. I'll say the art in this book is really, really good. It's extra size, the page count, but there's like these destruction pages in here, which are just absolutely breathtaking, I think. The way that they handle debris and the action and everything, it's awesome. I don't want to even show you any pages. I want you to see it for yourself because it is really, really cool. There is one thing they kind of hint at in here with Goldie's past with Matt Murdock and Elektra, kind of growing up, going through school. He's watching Daredevil's powers kind of manifest in a certain way. And it almost makes it seem like he's one of the first people to kind of notice his secret identity in a way. So, that is pretty interesting. But they kind of make him this guy that's been sitting in the background kind of orchestrating or pulling the strings behind Matt Murdock and Daredevil's ascendance into into superhero-dom, right? So I think it's pretty interesting. It's fun. I don't know if I buy that necessarily, but the other thing I would say about this book is a little bit on the negative, is that I really want Daredevil to join up with Elektra and Stick and go take on the Hand and go team up with Punisher. I want that story to go forward. I feel like I'm reading an X-Men book where it's like, oh, we got this really cool, interesting story. We're going to go in that direction. But first, we're going to introduce this character that's always been around in Matt's life. And apparently he's pulling the strings his entire career and like starts messing everything up. And it's just delaying this cooler story that I just really want to see. So if I had any criticism, it would be that. But if we're going to be in this area, I want the art to be cool and I want the character to be something difficult and something unique. And I feel like we have that. It's just unfortunate that we're kind of delaying this whole Punisher crossover that I just really want to see. But let me know if you read this book, if you feel the same way. Daredevil #2, I would say it's great. Zdarsky's run's really fun. Devil's Reign I thought was pretty fun, had some pretty cool things happening in it. And we're on issue #2 of this one, and it's not bad, so I would check it out. And the last Marvel book we got this week was X-Men issue #13. It got that Art Adams cover with Jean on there as the Phoenix. Pretty interesting. This is probably one of the cheapest books I've ever seen. It's miserable. It's not good at all. The page quality is just absolutely terrible, and I'm getting kind of tired of that. I feel like when you hold the book and you're actually reading it, like just like your hands and your fingerprints or whatever just ruin the covers and stuff. It's really a shame. It's really a shame what they're doing right now to X-Men books, but whatever, here we are. So we got Gary Dugan on here. I think we had a different art style is right? So we had CF Villa on here, and the art's okay. I don't really like that art style necessarily, and the coloring was a little bit too shiny. I don't know if it was the artist problem or the colorist, not entirely sure, but the art just didn't really do it for me most of the time. There's a few panels in here where it might actually work, and it is pretty fun to see, but for the most part, overall, in general, the art didn't do it for me. So what are we doing here? Again, it's suffering from this whole Judgment Day crossover kind of thing, and it's the Eternals sending wave after wave of like their Celestials or whatever they are over into Krakoa right now, and all of our different X-Men teams and former teams and whatever teams are trying to do their best to kind of hold everybody back right now. We have our new X-Men team kind of infiltrating right now, and they're taking it to the source, so to speak. And so they're just trying to do whatever they can do to kind of split up forces to take on this invasion rather. And then they're pretty successful with it. But the problem is there was I think it was X-Men Immortal. X-Men Immortal ended the exact same way this one ended. It's almost as if these are kind of just recap stories to get to the point where everyone gets notified by the Celestial right here that Judgment Day is coming and you're all going to be judged for your actions. And so, we'll see what that means. This issue was, it was kind of fun. Again, the art kind of took it out a little bit, the quality of the book just in general. And, I was saying this about X-Men before. It was an interesting book. There was a few plot threads that I was really interested in. I think his name is Furlong or something like that. And the way that he was colonizing some moons, and he was like really pissed off at the X-Men for terraforming Mars and all this stuff. Like that was an interesting story, I thought. And then coming out of House of X and Powers of X, we had a lot of cool things to explore and discover more. But we kind of got away from all that, and now we got a tie-in. So it's like, oof, okay, we're so far removed from the plot right now. It's just really kind of bumming me out. But X-Men #13, what are you guys feeling about X-Men in general? Which ones are you reading? I'm still reading Immortal. I know some people are reading Red, but I hear Red's got the same issue this one has. It's kind of at the mercy of a tie-in right now. So I don't know, guys. What are you thinking about X-Men just in general? Let me know down below. So that's it for Marvel and DC. Let's hop over into some indie books. Starting with Image Comics, we have Above Snakes issue #2. And this is actually from Sean Lewis and Hayden Sherman. So I really liked issue #1. It was very interesting. It kind of introduced me, or perhaps reintroduced me, to Hayden Sherman's art style. And it's got a real sketchy, irregular art style, which I actually really like a lot, and the coloring really makes everything pop in here, and so I do like that. It's a good accent to everything that's going on. There's a lot of high contrast, a lot of bright colors in here, and I'll just give you an idea of what we're talking about when we talk about that. So you get these like little flashback scenes, which are ultra bright and yellow, which I think is pretty cool, and then the very next page, you get all these like real nice dark rich tones, these blues and these purples. And so if you enjoy that kind of a thing, I think you're going to like this from an art perspective. And again, it's like an irregular line work Characters a little exaggerated here and there, but again, it kind of works for the overall story, I think. But yeah, this is the continuation of issue number 1. This is actually 1 week later. We find our main character and his like demonic sidekick Bird, who they haven't really explained just yet. I'm wondering if we have any other context that I'm just missing right now, but that partnership is pretty fun. It is kind of cool to see. I kind of like stories where they have that kind of relationship. We see it in Barbaric, we saw it in God Country, we see it in different things. We saw it in Predator lately, where our main character has some kind of an otherworldly or kind of like an AI interacts with in just some kind of humorous way. That's always a cool thing to have because you just have constant dialogue between characters. So you do have that in here, which is pretty fun. And that little bird is pretty funny. But, you know, our main guy, he's on his revenge mission still. He's trying to take out this gang, one member at a time. He goes to another town, meets another lady. She's got her own stories. She's on her own revenge mission. And so they kind of team up a little bit. And they take care of this threat that's in town right here. What I do like about this is there's a lot of humanity inside of this book right here. They explore a relationship just a little bit. And she's dead set on taking care of this problem, trying to get her revenge. But, can she actually do it? They explore that in here and what it actually means to pull that trigger when the time comes. So I did appreciate that. It's actually a pretty cool little exploration of character here. And, I got to say, I actually liked this issue more than I liked issue number 1. There's also this weird intro to each one of the issues. They have this guy that they introduce you to. He's kind of like he's being like worshipped. He almost has a cult, but he has, I don't know if he's got like stories distilled down into almost like a physical form. It's really kind of an interesting concept right now, and he seems to be spoon feeding people these different stories. So I'm wondering if we're going to get a little bit more explanation of that character. He's kind of mysterious and weird, and I kind of want to see where that's going to go. So I'm hoping we get a little bit more every issue into who this guy is and what is going on from that perspective. But yeah, Above Snakes, I liked issue number 1. I loved issue number 2, so I would recommend this one for sure. And the next Image book we read this week was Do a Powerbomb issue number 3 from Daniel Warren Johnson, and we have Mike Spicer on the art. Again, I love Mike Spicer. Pretty much in anything he does, it's absolutely brilliant. I love that. And Daniel Warren Johnson doing a wrestling book? Come on now. You got to be reading that. You just got to be. So this is one of the coolest wrestling books I've ever read. Now, I've only read a couple, and I've loved both of them, Crimson Cage being the other one. If you haven't read Crimson Cage, do yourself a favor and pick that one up for sure. It's one of my favorite books of the last year for sure. Do a Powerbomb is another great example of a wrestling book. It has like the perfect balance between being a little bit behind the scenes and meta a little bit, which I think is pretty fun. So if you're a big wrestling fan, you're going to appreciate a lot of the stuff that happens in here. And this is kind of like a Mortal Kombat situation. They're getting all these different wrestlers from different dimensions together in a tag team tournament, and the winner of the tag team tournament gets a wish, and they can have whatever they want. So a lot of these teams getting together are extremely desperate. We follow a little girl who lost her mom, who was a legend in the wrestling scene. Her dad is trying to kind of pull her out and not make her kind of repeat the same mistakes her mom has. And but she's hell-bent on getting into this tournament. She finds a partner for his tag team tournament, and they go in, and this is actually the first round of the tournament against the Oranga Bros or something like that. They're like these orangutans, and they are pretty awesome. Orangabang is their name. So it is pretty cool to see their initial interaction before the match, and then how the match actually plays out is really cool. I'll give you a little hint of the art style in here. This is a little altercation they have at a local bar before the event. It's pretty fun. Just our main heroes right here getting into a little scuffle in the bar. I think it was pretty cool. And this is where the Orangabangs come in here and just try to help them out a little bit, because they want their opponents to be top physical form when they fight them. They don't want something happening to them the day before in some random bar. Very, very cool premise. It explores the other teams in here as well. It shows you the brackets. It is really fun. There's a lot of hype, a lot of energy inside of this book, and I do like that a lot. Again, the art style is just incredible. I'm loving what I'm seeing in here. Daniel Warren Johnson knows how to draw that really crazy, sketchy art, and yeah, it's going to be a blast. It feels like every issue going forward, at least for a little while, is going to be another round in this bracket, so it's going to be kind of fun to see the different teams that they're up against and what it takes to beat those teams. So it's been a blast so far. And I definitely think this is going to be picking it up issue to issue, because we're going to be exploring more and more teams as we go. So it's really cool. If you haven't picked this one up yet, we're on issue number 3. I highly recommend picking this one up. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, there's a lot of cool things in here. And Daniel Warren Johnson does a really great way, or does a really good job of just drawing just amazing action scenes. So I would highly recommend this one. All right, the next Image book we read this week was Firepower. This is actually issue number 23. I never remember what issue we're on with Firepower. Issue number 23 from Robert Kirkman, and we got Chris Samney on the art. Man, this one left off on a really big cliffhanger on the last issue, and it really fulfills that cliffhanger in this one. This is our big battle between Owen and his entire clan. They've been recruiting all these ancient masters and things like that, and they're attacking this serpent lord just head on in his dragon, as you can see in the cover itself. That's exactly what's going on inside of this book. There's like 22, 23 pages in this book, and about 17 of them don't have any dialogue. It is just full page spread or, very minimal paneling going on and just tons and tons of action. We have our hero and his entire forces kind of like paragliding into this dragon, trying to take this guy out, trying to take the master of this dragon, like the leader or the person that's controlling this dragon out, this serpent guy. And it's just a gigantic battle issue. That's all this is right here. It is pretty cool. I'm trying to find a interesting little shot for you here. We have a couple different battles going on, actually, which is pretty fun. We have Owen in the sky right now, and we also have all the different masters down below fighting our serpent guy, and is pretty cool to see what's going on in here. And yeah, it's very, very interesting. Lots of casualties on Owen's side. And, there's like small victories here and there. What are you going to do against a gigantic dragon? He's the size of towns. He's literally ripping the world apart. And so what can you actually do about this? We do get to see some interesting ideas on how to take this on. But towards the end of the book, you're realizing that this battle is actually a lot more difficult than they think it's going to be, even with all the numbers they have. There's only 2 of them. There's armies of these guys that Owen's put together. But is it enough? You can find out in these pages. And there's also a nice little hook at the end as well, leading into what is going to be another action-packed issue, number 24, when that comes out next month. Firepower. How you guys feeling about it? Let me know down below. All right, the next Image book we read this week was Seven Sons. This is issue number 3, and this is actually drawn by Jay Lee, which is what initially got me in here. But we have Robert Wyndham and we have Calvin Mao on the story itself. And so this book was interesting up front just because I thought it was a pretty cool look at potential futures and how religion can be, kind of mixed with like a marketing campaign almost. We have like this new Vegas type of an attitude. We have the next coming of Christ, the next birth of Christ happening. It's kind of like an Umbrella Academy kind of a thing too. We had all these children kind of born at this one time. A lot of them were gathered up together, and they're kind of like the disciples right now. They're kind of like almost like a Jesus type figure. And there's a certain hierarchy inside of these sons, and they're kind of used to kind of gather more money. But I feel like there's another layer in this that I'm just not quite understanding. There's like a whole prophecy and things like that. There's a whole story that's been told in here that might not necessarily be true, or it might be just true enough for the public to believe everything. And maybe there's a big hidden secret that the people running this whole cult almost know about, and they're trying to suppress it a little bit. But there's a lot of other religious organizations that are really mad at what's going on. They're actually trying to assassinate all these different sons. And I just feel like I don't understand why these sons are actually going out and putting themselves in positions where they can actually get assassinated. It feels like the last couple of issues, a couple of them just get stupid and they get fed up with their current surroundings. They want a little chaos in their life because they've been sheltered this whole time. And every time they go out, it ends horribly, And so at least this one son who actually goes out has a little bit of a motivation. He's trying to uncover the secrets behind his family and how everything kind of was set up. And they do that, but it kind of ends the same kind of way. And so I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. I need a little bit more explanation in this book, because I feel like I'm just kind of stretching for an understanding of what actually is happening in here. I think there's a really interesting idea and story in here. I just feel like it needs a little bit more spoon feeding for people like me, just to kind of understand the basic premise here. Again, it's got that Jay Lee art style, so I think you might know what you might be getting yourself into when it comes to that. I'm trying to find like a decent page to show you what I'm talking about from an art perspective. I'll just show you this because it has a couple different faces and whatnot on there. And the cover kind of gives it away as well as far as what you can expect art-wise. But yeah, I mean, I think my excitement for this book is down a whole lot. If they give us a big explainer issue, that would be nice, but I would like it peppered in a little bit naturally as well. But let me know what I'm missing down here. Let me know what I'm missing down in the comments if you are picking up on exactly what's happening. And maybe I'm just missing it. I'm not entirely sure. What are you thinking about Seven Sons? If you read it, let me know. And the last Image book we read this week was 20th Century Men. This is issue number 1, and this is actually from Dennis Camp. And we have Morian and we have Aditya Bidikar on the lettering. So I did pick this one up because Robbie at Pop Culture Philosophers gave it his pick of the week, and I definitely wanted to check that out because most of the time we are jiving on that exactly. Not necessarily on this one. I think I need a couple more issues to kind of help iron out all the different things going on, because it felt like, in a way, for me, every 3 or 4 pages, we kind of introduced a new thing, and I didn't quite understand how they all stacked up. It's really big on like alternative history in a way. So if you really like what's going on, like World War II-ish kind of stuff, I'm trying to remember if they gave us exact years. So we're like in Vietnam, actually. So we're in the late 60s. Then we kind of dip back into the late 40s and things like that. So there's definitely a history element in here, and there's definitely like an altering of that history, kind of like a Captain America kind of a thing, if you had to think about it. Lots of experiments in some secret governments in the Soviet Union, creating some kind of iron robot kind of a guy, like a 20th Century Man right here. And he is feared amongst the land. But again, there's a lot of politics in here. There's a lot of time jumping. There's a lot of things that probably stack on top of each other, a lot of themes and things like that stack, that I just wasn't able to piece together necessarily. Lots of dialogue, again, lots of political conversations and whatnot in here. And I think I need a couple more issues to really kind of cement my understanding of what is actually going on in here. Because even towards the end, there was some revelations, some going back to war conversations. And there was a lot of different parties involved. And I'm just trying to figure out, okay, are they the good guys? Are they the bad guys? Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it wasn't. Art style, I think, was great. I love the art style. I'll give you a little hint of what we're looking at. It's almost like it changes from time to time. So we have this real kind of watercolory, just beautiful artwork here. And then when you kind of go through the pages a little bit more, you have this interesting like sepia tone, like this black and white almost kind of tone on here. It becomes a little bit more detailed. So I think it's really interesting. The art shifts depending on if it's like a story told in the past, or it's just like a different group of characters, and it's almost like a feeling they're trying to portray as, instead of a picture of like what's actually happening, you know what I mean? So it does a really good job of kind of putting you in the mood that you need to be to listen to that particular part of the story. So I did like that a lot. But again, I'm going to give it a couple more issues before I really kind of say whether or not I like it or not. It kind of lost me a little bit. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this book has in store, because I think it's got a pretty... You can kind of tell when you read a book when it has a lot of depth and it has a lot of things they're going to explore. And so this one I feel like is heading in that direction. I just need a little bit more for me to really say that I really enjoyed it. So I'll definitely give it a shot, but check it out and let me know what you thought. All right, we're out of Image Comics now. We have a few more indie books to go into. Let's go into AWA Upshot with New Think. This is issue number 3. And man, if you need a book to read to make you feel like an absolute piece of crap every time you look at your phone or anything like that, this is the book for you. Especially issue number 1. Issue number 2 gets away from that a little bit, but issue number 3 gets you right back in that technology. And this is essentially, a love letter from technology, from phone, from social media. It's almost like a love letter / hate letter, blackmailing kind of a letter to humanity itself. It's like perfectly describing this dependency that humans, that mankind has on technology for just like validation of self-worth. And it kind of threatens you in a way, because it's like, if you're not sitting here in front of your phone, taking selfies, creating Instagram posts, creating TikToks constantly, if you're not using filters, if you're not doing this, no one's ever going to love you, and you're never going to feel validated. You're never going to feel like you're worthy or anything like that. So you have to constantly be plugged in. You have to constantly be sharing your status, and every single little movement you do, I'm going to record, and I'm going to understand a little bit more about you, and I'm going to know you more than you know yourself. And so it's actually a really creepy exploration from a technology standpoint, like if it was actually programmed to go rogue, what that would actually look like. And it's kind of scary when you look at that. I thought issue number 1 was frightening. This issue was way more frightening. And the way that they portray it is kind of, it progresses, So like in the first couple of pages, it kind of shows all these smiling people. They're having a good time. They're actually like laughing and things like that. they're happy to be in this situation, but then as this book goes on, the characters start getting a little bit more depressed. They start seeing how much fun other people are having on social media. They start kind of taking that and internalizing it and saying, like, why not me? And you can see, like, as this progresses, people get more and more depressed and more just kind of shocked or kind of numbed, And so it's a very interesting exploration. It's a very interesting maturing from the front to the back of this book. And I can't say it's wrong. I can't say it's wrong at all. If you want the uneasiness of something like Ice Cream Man, but you want it in a way that would actually be relevant, or perhaps more relevant to you personally or to people in general about, how addicted they are on their phones, check this issue out and tell me you don't want to smash your phone after you read an issue like this. I'm telling you, it's creepy. It's so creepy. Check out New Think issue number 3. Let me know what you thought. All right, and the next book we read this week was from Vault Comics. We have Barbaric, Axe to Grind, issue number 1. So this is actually from Marisi. We got Golden and we got Duke on here and Jim Campbell on the lettering. So this is actually pretty fun. So if you didn't read the original Barbaric, it's essentially this barbarian who's living with a curse right now. He was cursed by some witches. They explore what that is and what the curse means. And he actually has this axe who's sentient in a way. It actually communicates with them, and it is bloodthirsty and it's vulgar and it's just hilarious. Again, it's like in Above Snakes when I talked about our main character having like a companion to bounce things off of. This companion happens to be a bloodthirsty axe, and it's hilarious and it's really, really cool. And so in this story, it's fun because we actually get to explore a friend of Owen's. He was actually being held hostage by like this vampire kind of a character. They take care of that, and now they're exploring this old nemesis that Owen had before he was cursed and before he had his axe when he was still a barbarian. There's this really ancient evil that he has to kind of go back and attack, and now he's got this team to kind of help him, so they're kind of heading towards that direction. Of course, on the way there's all these different obstacles and whatnot that they have to get through, and it's just absolutely insane. I'll give you a little hint about what they actually have to go up against, but it is so fun. It's really cool. Interesting book, great characters. It's drawn really, really well, and I'm loving this book a lot. So let me know what you thought about Barbaric. This is issue number 1. This is probably, I don't want to say it's volume 3 because we had a one-shot. How does that work? I don't know. Volume 2, perhaps? Issue number 1, Barbaric, check it out. And the last book we read this week was from IDW. This is issue number 2 of Dark Spaces Wildfire from Scott Snyder. And we have Hayden Sherman on this one as well. I love seeing the change between the art style between Above Snakes and this book. You still get that same like coloring almost on there, which I think is interesting, but the art itself is just so much different. You can almost see it in the faces if you really look into it, but it's a whole different style altogether, which I think says a lot about the artist himself. But this is a Scott Snyder book, and I think that people are starting to realize, or perhaps they realized a long time ago, maybe I'm late to the party, Scott Snyder has a very formulaic approach to all of his stories. If you read enough of his books, you can almost tell without even knowing he wrote it that this is definitely a Scott Snyder book. That's not a bad thing because most of his books are really engaging, but he's figured out this formula for storytelling and how he storyboards in general that just really works and keeps you going. He gives you a little bit of the end up front, and then he dips back in and kind of tells you how it happened. You'll see that repeated over and over again. You'll see that in here. You'll see it in Noctera. You'll see it in a couple different books he had out. What was that? We Have Demons. So again, it's like he has this real formulaic approach, but it seems to be pretty fun, and it seems to be working for him because the books are selling. So kudos to him. But what do we have in here? I'm actually kind of surprised that we got this far in an issue number 2. We basically have this female squad of firefighters. They are taking on this brush fire that's wiping out presumably parts of California. Perhaps they touched on that. I just don't remember. But they go over all the logistics of just firefighting in general, all the different stages of a blaze. And right now they're in the ignition stage and stage 2. He's playing on that word as well as far as the ignition of the heist that they're about to go on. They've noticed that the path of this fire is actually heading towards this mansion with all this cryptocurrency stored on a server. And so they came up with this big heist plan to steal all this cryptocurrency before, and then the fire is going to go wipe out the house, covering all their tracks, right? We got a hint in issue number 1 about how that all ends, because that's what Scott Snyder does. He kind of gives you the ending a little bit, and then he dips back in and tells you how they got there. So I'm wondering, like, where's this going to go now that we kind of know how this ends? And it's a retrospective tale in a way, but we'll see what the actual story has for us. But yeah, we get pretty far for an issue number 2. And of course, it's not without its little twists and turns. And yeah, so it's a pretty interesting book so far. I'll give you a little peek of what the art style looks like. And some of the paneling gets pretty crazy in here. Again, it's very bright. It's very vibrant. It has that feel that we saw from Above Snakes. Hopefully that actually, there we go. It has that feel, that color feel that we saw from Above Snakes. But again, the art style is completely different. So yeah, if you're a Scott Snyder fan, if you like some of his indie work in particular, and you like his approach to storytelling, and you like Hayden Sherman, I think you're going to love this book. Check it out. And that's everything I read this week. I appreciate you watching the video. Like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification to be notified of future videos. Thanks again. See you in the comments.